started. So I'm going to do my spiel and go through the presentation maybe a little bit more formally and structured than I otherwise would. I otherwise want to interact with you guys more. But hopefully there'd be an occasion to follow up if you have any questions. You can come see me in the library afterwards. So just to introduce myself, I'm Sarah Dunmetz. I am the Associate Head of School for Academics. I have been here over 30 years. I've been Academic Dean, History Department Chair, taught history. I still teach history. I've taught a variety of other subjects here, including English and language and things like that. So I've been here a long, long time and worked on the academic program for most of my years at Dublin School. So it's something we're really proud of, and it's really powerful. So we start everything from the basis of this. I think if there's one thing that I would say about us as a school and us as an academic program, it's that we believe in kids. We believe in kids as creative forces. We believe in kids as growing beings. We believe in kids as mathematicians. We believe in kids as agents of social change. We believe in kids as writers and as artists. And that's really the essence of everything we do. Adolescence, of course, is a time that isn't all, cake and roses. Things aren't all happy every single day for every single student. Kids find areas where they excel, and we support and celebrate that. And we see that confidence spill over and become kind of a well of strength in areas where kids struggle. And of course, kids struggle. That's part of learning and growing. And different people struggle in different ways and at different times. And we support students in their struggles, both within the academic program and as adolescents and growing people. So our education is really centered around this idea of supporting students in their strengths, stretching them in areas of weakness and growth. And that growth mindset that Mr. Bates referred to really permeates everything we do. Our mission is a really special mission. It's not a cookie cutter mission in any way. I was part of the committee that wrote it many years ago, and it really encapsulates all of our values, and it's something that is really the living heart of our program in all of its different ways. So it's something we really believe and we take really seriously. We refer back to in everything from curriculum planning to designing assignments to assessments to discipline and student life to athletics. It really permeates our program. So I'm just going to read it because it's really the central statement of Dublin's philosophy. At Dublin School, we strive to awaken a curiosity for knowledge and a passion for learning. We instill the values of discipline and meaningful work that are necessary for the good of self and community. We respect the individual learning style and the potential each student brings to our school. With our guidance, Dublin students become people who seek truth and act with courage. Derived from the mission are our long-term transfer goals, which essentially function as our standards, if you are familiar with those in the public school world, or habits of mind. And so these are some specific goals that we have for students' attitudes about their learning and their dispositions that they bring to classes, which serve also as a link from the specific day-to-day assignments into the mission. So these are being curious and passionate learners, communicating creatively and effectively, being effective and empowering students, being self-aware and self-reflective, appreciating different perspectives, responding to adversity with resilience. We believe that as students grow in these areas, they are able to carry out the mission and bridge from the mission into all areas of their work. We use the long-term transfer goals for course design, assessments, feedback in terms of end-of-term comments, in advisory meetings, and these can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. So, for example, communicating clearly and effectively might show up in a science class as technical writing. It might be dance and choreography. It might be woodworking. It might be podcasts. It might be paragraph structure. So these cut across all the disciplines and give the curriculum some unity and coherence as well. Together we can do hard things. This is one of my favorite sayings of this year. There's a lot that can go into learning that can feel hard. And we work on things in collaborative ways. We have student-run math centers, student-run writing centers, students giving extra help in science centers, and of course our faculty all have office hours and are available for extra help at all kinds of times. So our curriculum combines traditional disciplines of English, history, math, science, arts, language, technology, and includes training in a lot of basic traditional academic skills like learning how to study for a test, and learning how to write a research paper, learning how to write an essay, learning how to do a science lab and write a lab report. You know, some of these things are pretty traditional, but we do them in very progressive and non-traditional ways in school. So we do things like partners discussions, which are student-centered discussions where a question is posed to the table and the teacher isn't lecturing. The students themselves discuss text and arrive at ideas. We do regular sit-down 2-hour exams at the end of the term. We use textbooks. We have tests. We also have projects, research, presentations, interviews, image analysis, performance assessments, a variety of different types of work that are less traditional. One example is we do have the standard U.S. history class. All juniors take U.S. history. But it's done in a very, very interesting way. There's a particular focus in the history department on women's history, on including women's voices as subjects of history, so primary sources looking at women's experience through time, but also women as historians and scholars. So using women's writings both as primary and as secondary sources, and paying particular attention to the experience of women throughout history, which definitely turns a lot of textbooks on their head. As a history teacher, I can say that most textbooks do not do this, and so it requires a lot of creativity on the part of teachers to find those sources and track that thread and thread it through the course. Another example is working on creating better understandings of the African American experience and not focusing only on African Americans as slaves and as victims and as suffering throughout our history, but celebrating also their resilience and their culture. This year that's being done by examining food traditions in African American history. Or in World History 1, there is a unit on Islam that by itself is maybe not surprising. I think probably that's true in a lot of schools. But again, this is viewed as a progressive force within the context in which it arose. There's an emphasis on understanding women's experience in this course, on understanding the achievements of Islam. For example, science studies reached a very particular level of sophistication in Islamic society, and Islam as a force for peace in the world at the time that it was developed. So here's an overview of our curriculum. 9th grade, English 9, Adolescents Reimagined, World History 1, Ancient Societies, Biology, Spanish and Math according to placement tests. All students do placement tests in the summer before they arrive. so that we have them at the right level. And electives, technology and design is a required 9th grade elective, and then the 9th graders also do an art in the other semester that they're not doing technology and design. 10th grade, English 10, Global Voices. World History 2, there are electives in World History 2, so sophomores have a choice. Chemistry or physics, depending on the math level. Spanish and math, again, according to the student's level. Electives are in history, arts, and technology. In the 11th grade, English 11, and American Conversation, or AP Language. AP courses are part of our curriculum, and they begin usually in the 11th grade. Although this year we have some 10th graders taking AP European history. So US history or AP US is another 11th grade class. Chemistry or an AP science, Spanish, math, electives. 12th grade, most students have met a lot of their requirements and therefore have a lot of choices about what they want to take in the 12th grade. They do have to take English. There are an array of English 12 electives offered, or AP Literature, advanced seminars in history, or AP European history. There's also AP Psychology that is an option for 12th graders. Advanced seminars in science, or AP Sciences, Spanish, math. And Senior Project is a really special program open to seniors where they design a year-long course based on a passion that they want to explore. Also technology and arts electives. We also offer a lot of independent studies. If students want to pursue something that is not in our regular curricular offerings, students usually speak with me to brainstorm ideas. We find a faculty mentor and design with that mentor their course of study. So we currently have independent studies running in Igbo language and Nigerian culture, a computer science course run from Harvard in game development, banana republics, consequences of globalism and greed, that's history, independent study, international economics, gene editing, resilience in high schoolers, Latin, French culture. And we do also have internships open to seniors. We currently have a student doing an internship through Harvard Med School. So, student-centered learning, all of our learning is student-centered. Our classes are small. We pay a lot of attention to establishing community in our classroom. We pay a lot of attention to relationships with students, faculty, students amongst each other. And here are just some examples. For example, in technology and design, the 9th grade technology elective, it's a very unit-based, project-based course. One example is they design a prosthetic limb together with some other kids in small groups and actually build them. Algebra 2 trigonometry, they have a wonderful project that's called Get a Life, where students try to imagine what kind of job they want, where they want to live, what kind of a house they want, what kind of a car they want, and they use their algebra skills to figure out how they're going to pay for it all. So this is actually a link, and I could play it, although it would take a little bit more time than you have. But if you're interested in seeing an example of that, you could go back to the recording and take a look. The images that you see here were done by Mia, who introduced herself as a weight room supervisor. She's also quite an accomplished photographer, and last year did an independent study in advanced art. So she designed for herself this particular project where she posed current Dublin students in poses of famous African Americans. So of course this is Malcolm X, and one of our students as Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, Supreme Court Justice, and one of our students as Thurgood Marshall. They were life-size photos and very striking. So this is another piece of pedagogical philosophy that is really infused into all of our courses. And this particular chart was designed by a couple of scholars at Harvard who studied what deeper learning looks like and what constitutes deep learning in high schools. They did a study of a whole variety of high schools across the country. And they concluded that really the elements of deep learning in high school are mastery. Students have to learn some stuff. You have to learn some knowledge that you didn't have before. Identity, you have to form some kind of a personal connection to that knowledge. Why does this knowledge matter to you? How does it change the way you think? How does it make you reevaluate the ideas that you came in with? And then a creative element as well. What can you do with this knowledge? Now that you have this knowledge and you've made connections with it, how are you going to show that? And these three elements are so much part of our curriculum that we really felt that this diagram encapsulated something that we've been doing for years. But it makes it very overt and clear. So this comes out in terms of this, in a way, it shows how we can combine traditional approaches like mastery, like studying for tests, with things that are more progressive, like making those personal, meaningful connections, making the information relevant, to doing something with that knowledge that involves creativity. So here's an example of a cool course that's running right now. It's actually a new course at Dublin School. Our faculty are so amazing. They're really deeply committed to their studies, constantly reevaluating curriculum, constantly coming up with new courses. So this year we have an Advanced Studies in Science centering on climate change that is running in the science department. It is fieldwork based. The kids are out in the field doing their independent research, monitoring the effects of climate change on Mount Monadnock. That's a study that's been ongoing together with Antioch and the graduate school in Keene for many years. And these students are carrying it forward. Forestry studies, maybe you're aware that there are a variety of different types of diseases that the forests of New England, the trees of New England are facing. And of course, with climate change, forests are changing. There's a field study on maple seeds and on the distribution of maple seeds that they are a part of and conducting. They've been to the Hawk Watch that is run by New Hampshire Audubon on Path Monadnock, where they actually count the number of different types of hawks that as they are migrating. It's just phenomenal. You get some incredible examples of birds, like even golden eagles, which are not native to this area, and I'm not sure why they're migrating here. But they do fly over, and then things like they'll see 3,000 broadwing hawks in a day when they're migrating in early October. It's pretty amazing. They monitor current events. There are lots of those around climate change. Maybe you've been watching something about the summit in Glasgow. They're doing a genealogy lab. They work with the Harris Center, which is a local environmental education center based in Hancock, but that has conserved many, many thousands of acres in this region. And each of the students are doing their own final projects. One student is monitoring water flow in the Kentucky River using information from the state. Another student is setting up wildlife cameras all through our trails and our land on campus, and is going to create an Instagram of Dublin campus wildlife. I mean, those are just two examples of final projects that are happening in this class. Senior projects, as I mentioned, are an opportunity for seniors to design a project in something that they're really passionate about and pursue it throughout the whole year. These are some examples from last year. Nora, Greek mythology in our time. Here's Nora doing a presentation, a panel presentation at mid-year last year. She designed clothing and outfits for gods and goddesses in the modern world, and then made them, and even modeled them herself. Josie, small business development, she actually launched a business that involves hearing aids and funds the provision of hearing aids for students who have trouble hearing. She herself had some trouble hearing, but that business is launched. Shally wrote and created a film and is currently studying film in college. Cyan worked on conflict in Yemen, educating our community about it and doing a fundraiser. Ainsley studied the history of contradance music, which goes back to the 1600s in this area, and was herself a fiddler, so learned to play it and found some amazing examples in archives of ancient tunes that have existed throughout time. Lyle composed and made an album and is also studying music in college right now. So another thing that is cool, that's a really cool opportunity at Dublin School that does not exist in many high schools, is astrophotography, where you can go up to the observatory and work with the students or Mr. Schmidt to modify images that are taken by the camera on the telescopes and use colors to highlight them. The images in the upper left-hand corner is one that I did together with an advisee of mine. I had an advisee who I found hadn't been into the observatory ever in his 4 years in Dublin School. So we went up one Friday evening as an advisor group and got into modifying an image, and Mr. Schmidt helped us do that. So we wound up making one together. The others are made by other students at Dublin School. But it's a really cool thing because the colors allow you to see and focus on something out there in the whole panoply of the universe. And it's a very amazing